Imagine a city the size of a small town. Imagine walking into that town one morning and everyone is gone. The breakfast is still warm on the table. The tools are lying next to the unfinished work. The beds are made, but there's not a single soul in sight. No bodies, no blood, no signs of struggle, just ... silence. This sounds like the plot of a science fiction movie, but in 1590, it actually happened. This is the story of the Lost Colony of Roanoke. It is the oldest, coldest case in American history. 115 men, women, and children vanished into the forests of North America, leaving behind only one cryptic word carved into a wooden post. Did they die? Did they move? Or did something darker take them? To understand the disappearance, we have to go back to 1587. North America was not a land of cities and highways. It was a vast, green, terrifying wilderness. To the English, it was an alien planet. A man named John White led a group of 115 brave settlers to an island off the coast of what is now North Carolina. This wasn't a military expedition. These were families. There were pregnant women, carpenters, and farmers. They were looking for a new life. Among them was John White's own daughter, Eleanor, and shortly after they arrived, Eleanor gave birth to a baby girl. They named her Virginia Dare. She was the first English child ever born in the New World. She was the hope of the colony. But the New World was cruel. They arrived too late to plant crops. The soil was sandy. The local Native American tribes were suspicious. Having been attacked by previous English soldiers, supplies began to run dangerously low. The colonists were terrified. They begged their leader, John White, to return to England to get food, weapons, and reinforcements. John White didn't want to go. He didn't want to leave his daughter and his newborn granddaughter in this dangerous land. But he had no choice. Before he boarded the ship, he made a pact. With the colonists, he told them, "If you decide to leave this island while I am gone, carve the name of your destination on a tree." Then he added a chilling instruction. If you are in danger, or if you are forced to leave by attack, carve a Maltese cross over the letters. Remember that detail, the cross. It is the key to the mystery. John White promised he would be back in 3 months. He kissed his granddaughter goodbye, boarded the ship, and sailed east. He thought he would be gone for a season. He wouldn't see America again for 3 years. Why did it take 3 years? Because history got in the way. When John White arrived in England, war had broken out. The Spanish Armada, the greatest fleet of warships the world had ever seen, was attacking England. Every ship, including White's supply ships, was commandeered by the Queen to fight the Spanish. For 3 years, John White sat in England, helpless. Every night, he looked west across the Atlantic Ocean, wondering if his daughter was still alive, wondering if little Virginia Dare was hungry. The guilt must have eaten him alive. Finally, in 1590, the war ended. White immediately booked passage on a privateer ship. He was going home. On August 18, 1590, his granddaughter's 3rd birthday, John White's ship approached Roanoke Island. As they neared the shore, the sailors saw a plume of smoke rising from the trees. John White's heart leaped with joy. Smoke meant fire. Fire meant people. He thought they were safe. He and his men stood on the deck, blowing trumpets and singing English folk songs, trying to signal the colonists. "We are here. We are back." But there was no answer. The forest swallowed their music. When they landed on the beach, the sand was empty. They found fresh footprints in the dirt, but no people. They marched toward the settlement, their hands on their swords, the silence pressing against their ears. When they reached the village, they stopped cold. The houses were gone. They hadn't been burned down. They had been dismantled, carefully taken apart. The settlement was enclosed by a high, palisaded defensive wall of tree trunks that had only been there before. John White ran to the entrance of the fort. He looked for the secret signal. He looked for the Maltese cross, the sign of distress. There was no cross. Instead, peeling back the bark of one of the wooden posts, he found one single word carved in capital letters: Croatoan. and on another nearby tree, the unfinished letters. Crow. That was it. No letter explaining where they went. No map. No bodies. 115 people had simply evaporated. White tried to be optimistic. Croatoan was the name of a nearby island, and the home of a friendly Native American tribe. He believed they had moved there peacefully. Since there was no cross carved on the tree, he assumed they left willingly. He wanted to sail to Croatoan immediately to find them, but the Atlantic Ocean had other plans. A massive hurricane began to form. The anchor cable of his ship snapped. The captain of the vessel refused to go further. It told White, "We leave now, or we die." John White stood on the deck, looking back at the dark forest one last time. He was forced to sail back to England, leaving his daughter and granddaughter behind in the unknown. He would die years later, never knowing their fate. The colony was officially lost. So, what happened? For over 400 years, historians, archaeologists, and conspiracy theorists have tried to solve the puzzle. Where did 115 people go? Some believe the Spanish, who hated the English, found the colony and massacred them. But if they did, where were the bodies? The Spanish were known for leaving bodies on display to warn their enemies. Roanoke was clean. Others point to the Dare stones. In the 1930s, a series of stones were found in the American South, allegedly carved by Eleanor Dare. The stones told a horrific story of sickness, war with savages, and the death of virtually everyone, including little Virginia Dare. For years, these were thought to be the answer. However, modern analysis suggests most of these stones were likely elaborate hoaxes. There is even a local Native American legend that says Virginia Dare didn't die. Instead, she was transformed by magic into a pure white deer, a white doe. It is said that to this day, a ghostly white deer roams the woods of North Carolina, a spirit that can never be caught. A beautiful story, but a myth. The truth is likely far less supernatural, but far more fascinating. Remember the word Croatoan. Years after the disappearance, early settlers in North Carolina reported seeing Native Americans with unusual features: gray eyes, light brown hair, and a knowledge of English building techniques. Some of these tribes claimed that their ancestors talked in a book, meaning they could read. It is almost certain that the colonists, starving and abandoned, did exactly what they said they would do. They went to Croatoan. They were adopted by the local tribes. They intermarried. They had children. They didn't vanish. They assimilated. The English looked for lost white people. They never thought to look for them in the faces of the Native Americans. In recent years, DNA testing has been conducted on the descendants of local families in North Carolina. The results have been tantalizing. Markers suggesting English ancestry dating back specifically to the late 1500s have been found. The blood of the Lost Colony is likely still flowing today, in the veins of people walking the streets of America right now. John White died thinking he had failed. He died thinking his family was gone. But perhaps they survived in the only way they could. The story of Roanoke is not a story of a massacre. It is a ghost story where the ghosts didn't die, they just became someone else. The wilderness of America didn't kill them. It absorbed them. So, if you ever find yourself walking in the woods of North Carolina, and you see a tree with strange markings, or you lock eyes with a stranger who looks a little too familiar, ... remember the word Croatoan. What do you think really happened to the Lost Colony? Did they survive? Or is the answer buried in a grave we haven't found yet? Let us know in the comments. And if you want to explore more mysteries of the American wilderness, make sure to subscribe. The forest has many secrets, and we are just getting started.